Doris to you and give you a little background information on Doris. She's a dedicated mother and a homeschooler. She homeschooled her 6 children in New Hampshire. And it's hard to imagine that she had time for anything else. But she did become involved in the legislative process. She did this in 1990 when she felt that her rights to educate her children at home were undermined by the restrictive homeschool education law. Since then, Doris has been a champion of the rights of parents in their children's education, and she has worked diligently to influence the legislation to improve the homeschool education law. Please join me in welcoming Doris Hohensee.
Thank you for having me this evening. I'm trying to get my microphone on so you can hear me properly. Yes. I'm here to teach you or show you how you can have fun with this. As a homeschooler, I didn't want to get into politics. Politics found me. First day my child was 6 years old, I had a patrol officer at my door. So I had to read the law. This is the best thing that could have ever happened. We didn't have a law, we had guidelines. Guidelines were in regulations, there was no statutory authority. So these weren't even binding. So I talked to my superintendent, I said, you have to understand, you're free to choose not to go by these guidelines. So he did. So they approved me without my involvement because I felt that he didn't have the right to do that. Later, when I had my child in public school, there was this was a law called violence, theft, and destruction. He tried to accuse my daughter of this. She was in a library in the school, and she had 2 paperback books. They were worth about $2 each. And she went through one of those metal detectors. And so if she intended to steal it, she would keep on going. She would run it. They accused her of intending a thought crime, not stealing, because she went right back to the desk to straighten it out. She had something in her backpack, and she figured it out. But violence, theft, and destruction, for a whole week, they wanted her no finals, get an F, and, a suspension. I didn't look at it in records. I read the law. The law said they had to put in a report to the police within 48 hours. They failed to do so. So after a week of talking to every superintendent, headmaster, and principal in the building, and the next building over, it was all right. That is the power of the law. And I know because ED 306, is coming in, and this is going to implement Common Core. And these rules are going before the Board of Education. They're going before JELCOC. And my understanding is, even if they are not good, they will pass. So we will have regulations on the books, and you have to go to court to take them out. So they're putting them in there just to intimidate you. Isn't that nice to know? So this is fun. I didn't know anything about Common Core since April. So I was having fun with other things. But you can have fun with this. So the first thing I want to talk about is the history. We have a great Constitution. We have Article 6, Part 1 in there. This is huge because this gives us the right to control our schools. And it has been underrated and overlooked because nobody wants to let you control your schools. But in the original language, it said the state was to tell us to make adequate provision at our own expense, that's local control, and we have the exclusive right of electing our own public teachers and contracting with them for their support and maintenance. Well, in 1784, the teacher came with a satchel and what was in her head. That was it. So when they tried to change this in 1968, a few years before my time up here, I came in 79, it was a fiasco. They gave a little voter's guide, and I'll pass this around if you want to see this. They took out 153 words because they were removing obsolete sectarian language. There were 3 of those words in there: evangelical, Protestant, and Christian. And I went and I read all the background in all the newspapers of the time. There was no intellectual discussion of what they were taking out. They took out our exclusive right and left it a right. It's still there. And we have this for all times. So this is huge. This is how, and if anybody wants to pass this around, I'm going to get it from memory. Hale versus Everett, in 1868, the court said that the Constitution guarantees the political independence of the town no more explicitly or fully than it guarantees the ecclesiastic independence of the parishes. You have to understand that the churches and the parishes were one. So in 1968, when they split them, and there was no discussion on, well, you'll have your exclusive right in the private schools, because they still do. We don't tell them who to hire. But in the public schools, well, you're screwed. That's gone. How did that happen? We weren't vigilant. Back, and this is a great book, old statute books. They're online too. But 1854, we had a law on the books that said you could change your school district. You could join another one, you could combine two, you could create a new school district with 10 people making a written petition to the selectmen, and there were fines. There were fines of $100 if they didn't follow through. I've got the statute here. We need that back. Back in 1850s and 1870s, we had 2,600 plus school districts in New Hampshire. We're lucky to leave 100 in New Hampshire. In Nashville, my town, we had 11 school districts. The average was 30 kids per district. We now have one with 12,000. I mean, you want to know why we're disagreeing with each other? Because you've got to have 12,000 kids in one school. We all got to agree instead of just splitting up and everybody being happy and doing what they want. That's part of the problem. So we put in a bill to fix that. And of course, that was just, a trial balloon, and it failed last year. But I've got a copy of that too. So then I started looking at the law is the solution. Let's look at the Department of Education. Now, in statute, they have 4 divisions. One of them is the Division of Educational Improvement. There's a statute. It's disappeared. And I think it was back in 1979 or earlier, because we did the history of homeschooling, and there was Charles Marston. He was the director back in 1979 of this illicit division. And then he went later on to be our commissioner. But they have 4 divisions in here, and he was the Division of Instruction Director. It's not listed in law. So they have 4 divisions. They threw out one. We don't need educational improvement. And we haven't gotten any since then. We now have the Division of Instruction. But it gets worse. This division, according to the waiver application, which is in here, the flexibility waiver, this is where the Commissioner of Education signs with the Governor away all your rights. And here's one page, 31. It talks about the regional professional development centers. And there's regional liaisons. Now, little did you know, on July 8th, 2010, when 4-1 they voted Common Core in, and we hadn't a clue, because I didn't know anything about it till the spring, they were meeting, it says right in here, they're meeting monthly with your superintendents, your principals, your curriculum instruction people. They are putting it in. Don't worry, your school boards don't know anything. Your legislatures don't know anything. The people's representatives are clueless. You can ask. They don't know what's going on. They're in there because in this waiver, we have Virginia Berry and the governor at the time, Lyons. They signed it. They gave away a lot of our rights in here. They agreed that we were going to implement this in all our districts in the waiver. Yet it's voluntary because there's a statute that says that we have a right in our own districts to make our own frameworks and curriculum. So they're not really ramming it down our throats. When we went to Alton, they were pretty good with a little pushing and shoving to admit that. We went to Manchester, they're like, you're going to lose $21 million if you do this. Now, excuse me? So we took the tape from Alton, brought it to Manchester, and the mayor was livid. He was loud. I didn't say that. Anyway, so these regional centers, I kept looking. I finally found a website. This is the regional centers. There's 4 on this page, 2 on the back, and it says that they're under the Division of Instruction. You know that rogue agency or division that doesn't even exist? Anyway, so they exist, and they're telling your district how to implement Common Core. Isn't this wonderful? And you look at the website, and we've got a whole division of instruction. Commission to study autism of some sort of disorder, and they're in some complication, and they put all these different people, including the director of the Division of Instruction, in there on the commission, which is very nice. And then in 2013, they put 4 their designees. Now, this Division of Instruction director, she's very busy, so she can't be doing trouble. So anyway, so we have a bill in, and Jane may tell you a little bit about it later, maybe she won't. but we're gonna study overreach of that Department of Education and the commissioner. I mean, you can't make a contract, a waiver. We're gonna get out of the big bad no child left behind because as Heather gave the division of instruction, she's the director, she said it somewhere on the Seacoast, that it's a terrible lie we're foisting on the public about these kneecaps, and 75% of our kids are proficient. It's a terrible lie. Well, if the kneecaps are a terrible lie, the smarter balance assessments are even worse. And as to those privacy protections, we have a statute that was put in 1999 to have the Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act. We have a lot of privacy. We had to sign off on everything. But in 2011, 2012, I think starting in 2009, they started taking FERPA and changing all the terms at the federal level, so our protections in statute just went to the bottom. But whenever the department's out there, they say, oh, don't worry, all your rights are protected under all of the state laws. We don't shirk. No, they don't. They don't shirk. They're busy. They get money, federal funds, to run those regional directors, because I don't think they're run by their districts, and I don't think the legislature passed any funding. So I think we're getting federal grants to do these regional authorizations. So they're very busy doing that. And anyway, so Heather told us in Alton, I think, she said, I have kids in Bedford, and I would not leave them in the schools if they didn't have privacy protections. Well, pack your bags, Heather Page, because those are gone. And they'll go around, oh yes, we've got all these laws. No, those are gone. So, let's see. A few points, I don't know how I am with time. In Manchester, we flipped it to a certain extent. Now they're going to really spend $80,000 setting up the Common Core standards and the curriculum. Now they're going back to square one, but they want to go in a closed closet. They don't want the parents to watch. We want a little transparency because there'll probably be another $80,000 before we get it straightened out. They said today, no, absolutely, parents cannot watch. First we wanted a voice, to be on the group. Let's study the best standards. Let's get the best from Manchester. No, we're not professionals. Let's see. I have 6 kids. 3 of them went to Princeton. 1 of them graduated from Harvard with a PhD in physics. I mean, I'm just a stupid homeschooler. I don't know anything. And frankly, I'm not brilliant. I went to a second-grade college. I'm not I'm just a regular mom. And it's this network of moms who did this in homeschooling. We had terrible laws. We had this unregistered lobbyist group, which took that me. They would come here in 1990 and they passed this terrible law, which I went to Governor Merrill and I said, hey, look, this is unconstitutional. This is the reason why. He never touched me. Yeah, I'm in court helping the poor parents. They complied and their curriculum wasn't approved. I mean, but see, if you comply, then you've genuflected, you've given them authority over your family, and then you've got to submit to all the regulation. But if you just question it right at the beginning, so here I was, I got her out of trouble. But this is the problem we face. So anyway, we need to opt out of this test. The Smarter Balance test is supposed to be by state law, valid, appropriate, and objectively scored. Well, because of the dispositions in there, which we tried to take out in SB 48, which is one of Senator Stiles' bills, I'm sure she'll tell you about it. But there's dispositions in those. Your values, attitude, behavior, it's in there. You want to see something really bad, they give out 4 behavioral surveys in Pelham. I've got it right here. I mean, it's like they're asking all kinds of behavioral questions. Do you have a vivid imagination? What do you do when you're angry? Do you slam? I mean, come on. And they're filing that. It's not just going to your little village. It's going everywhere. It's going to follow you from birth to the workforce. So you might as well be a little concerned. So anyways, we need to opt out of that. If you look at the Smarter Balance website, right from there's a beautiful picture and it talks about, last year's pilot, this year's field testing, next year everybody's supposed to be taking it. But it's not going to be validated until the following year. It's an unvalid test. Our state law says it has to be valid. It's not valid. It's supposed to be appropriate. Well, we can question whether it's age appropriate. And it's supposed to be objectively scored. This is subjectively scored when they're measuring your values, your attitudes, your behavior, your disposition. And we can't control that test, so we can't say, well, let's take that part out. It's in there. So I'm giving you all permission to boycott it, because they're doing that in New York. And we have this law, House Bill 542, that said you can opt out of objectionable material. Assessment materials. If they're objectionable to you, they're quizzing all of your values and behavior, and you don't think it's appropriate, opt out. Can you repeat that bill number? House Bill 542, I think it's RSA 18611. I'm not sure. The data collection, they paid our streets to fill out these great big 400 data point things. That went into effect in April of 2012. It's happening. Competency-based education, which is different from just knowledge and skills. And again, Senator Stiles knows more about that. She had a bill, Senate Bill 82. It failed. She went to the Board of Education and she said to do it anyway. It's like we're bypassing our legislature. No, our legislature needs to speak for us. And whether or not we want competency-based education, we should be the ones to decide. Not, not this Board of Education, which is control. Anyway, thank you.
GrokTV